So yeah, today we're going to be going over this 1 through 5 list in order to help people get better trades. One of the requests was that we have increased frequency of trading while keeping a high quality standard of trade. And I think a great way to do that is to understand the kind of the overall flow of what happens with a move, because when we can identify what happens with a move to the point where we understand where targets are, it just constantly gives us higher quality trades. So I'm going to take a moment to write this out in this lesson here, right there. And we're going to change the color here to white just because it doesn't look that great in red. We're just going to add numbers. We have 1 is finding the master target. 2 is, the master is the number 1. The target or the mirror is number 2. Creating that Pandora's box is number 3. Creating a range trends is number 4. And then the controller is number 5. So we are going to be going through this in depth for the next couple of weeks. And we're going to start with this previous range that had happened on Bitcoin, because we had been looking at that already anyways. So as always with any trade, any range, anything you do, you always have to define an area where it's going to exist. And now I don't care if you define that area from an origin point to a break point, so origin to origin like this. So this point here to this point down here. I don't really care where you define your areas. You need to have a logical reason as to what you're doing with those areas. So the first thing we always do is we look for the master time frame. Now we're going to talk about 1 and 5 right now for a second, because 1 and 5 are connected. Your master time frame and your controller are connected. Sometimes they would feel like almost the same thing, but they are not. Your master is the higher controller. So if you were to think about it like this, controller is a master and a master is a controller. The difference being that your controller is more local to where your master is the overall target. So if you hit a 4-hour origin, that's going to be your master time frame, and your controller is what allows the range underneath or inside of that to go after its next part of the move. So the master and controller are similar, but they're not quite the same, as to where the master controls the entire thing. And that gives you your larger targets. Your controller is the interior pieces that allow you to see when things are breaking, when they're holding, what's going up, what's going down, etc. So the first thing we always do is we define the master in any type of trade we're looking at. So the master here is a 4-hour origin. We're going to confirm there's no daily. I don't think there is. There is a daily here, but we're going to use the 4-hour just because if we use the daily, it has a much lower spot it can go to. And the scenario here is if you were to use a daily, well, number one, the 4-hour exists before that. And this is a 4-hour break level. So we need to be very clear that these are not origins yet. These are actually just break levels turning into origins in the future. But for now, this represents a 4-hour touch. This represents the daily touch. And then if you were to do this, you would kind of have to start drawing trends off of the wicks here, which would just limit the amount of exposure you can see on the charts. So we always use that first time frame for that reason. You could even go and see if there's an hourly here. There is right here, but then you're just going to be at the 4-hour time frame. So if you were to actually use this hourly rate here, what would happen is you would have said, okay, this is an origin level. Yes, correct. Well, you've got a 4-hour, so this would be equal to a 4-hour level, and you would be correct. So you're saying this is a 4-hour level. Well, technically right now, this is also a 4-hour level. So they'd be one and the same, and the 4-hour level would just be the greedier level. And the next time this touches, it's going to be a daily level. For that reason, you would never use this, because you would say this is the greediest 4-hour level, and this is the second greediest 4-hour level. So why would you ever use that, right? So for that reason, we don't use that hourly right there. So you define your master time frame based on the highest time frame available and what's controlling the trade, not as a controller, but just what's controlling the trade. So again, we have that 4-hour here, and on the bottom side we need to look a little further in this, because I'm not sure if this is an origin yet or it's just a break level. So this is an origin, actually. So this is an origin, this is just a break. So we can make that distinction here. Actually, I believe they'd both be origins right now if they're both hit. So we might actually need to change that. They're not both hit. You have a 4-hour level here, and you have a 4-hour level above. So it's actually quite very simple. You have two 4-hour levels. This will turn into the daily, as to where this is already the 4. This cannot turn into a higher time frame. This can, because it's actually only the 4. So you actually have a 4-hour to 4-hour as your master time frame. So now you know exactly what you're working with. So your 1 is complete. So now we know we won't be looking at daily levels, and that's great, because when you define the master, you can simply lock off the other levels above it. We don't need daily levels now. we can work 4 hour and down unless we hit this again. Then we open up that daily. Like that's a part of this, right? Like it's almost as if you would think of it's like a disconnected time frame. It's not active in the moment. It's a non-active time frame. If it gets hit again, then we can open up the daily. And if it hits, right? Like if you go up here and you hit this, that master time frame is going to tell you, hey, you need to find the daily master on the bottom, or you're simply just breaking this trade down. So like if you were to go up and hit that again, then you have to go and find some daily level. Now that daily level could be anything from you have a daily hold level right here. So if you went daily to daily, obviously you're breaking up because your master against master here is collapsing under the hold of the daily. So you can see where you break out and deviate away from that. If you were to hold right here, this 4 hour propagated a time frame up, right? Meaning that you have daily to daily now as the range, and that this is no longer in play. So it would help you understand that this move is likely going up if you stop on this daily, which is a pretty important level to have actually. So we're gonna mark that daily there because it's important. And because we have the master, we can now go and find our targets and mirrors. So this is going to be the first one. And anything that's a target mirror, what we're going to do, we're going to put it as we'll just put it as a 4-stroke thickness just to make it very clearly identifiable. So now that we have the master timeframes defined, we need to find the targets or the mirrors, right? So that's pretty important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start taking away some of these levels here. While they may be important for the future. Oh, come on, trading view. Don't freeze on me. There we go. Good old trading view. While they may be important for the future, we simply won't need them right now. We don't even need this 15-minute level. We have this 15-minute origin, which is an hourly level. That's fine. We can now take our master time frame. Just get that back into our frame here. Always keep it front and center for us. We can now take our master time frame and we can start defining targets and where the mirror was going to be. So if this is a 4 hour, we need to understand that there's going to be a 4 hour that it targets. So we're going to take the replayer tool. We're going to go right here immediately. And we can already understand that we now have a 4 hour level that we're going to target. So if you were to come here and look at 4 hour levels, the first thing you would do is you'd identify the range you're in. So the range you're in right now looks like this, right? Like you're right here to right there. And you can tell what the range is because we can't go above the 4 hour time frame right now because the master is defining that. So even within the range itself, we can't go over the 4 hour. Okay. So if we can't go over the 4 hour, we can simply start looking for where the range exists, right? And you have your distribution candle here. So that means you have a range trend, right? You have a range trend like this, and you're going to create further. So now you're simply just looking for your greediest 4 hour targets. So you've got a 4 hour target here. You're looking for your greediest 4 hour targets on the bottom. And so when you understand the master, it gives you very clear targets with high quality outcomes. So you can really now start to mark every single 4 hour level. And that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to mark this 4 hour level. We're going to mark this as rejection as target. We're going to mark this backside here. We're going to mark this here. This is also a 4 hour level, and this is a 4 hour level as well that could possibly turn into a daily. So you've got a bunch of targets, right? So now you've got your master time frame. Now you've got a bunch of targets. So it's always going to be 4 hour. So no matter how this trade plays out, you can always see that there's a pretty instant trade. I don't want to say it's an easy instant trade to take because you can always keep going up into ranges. But once you create your trend, right? Like once you create a trend, that's really when you can start targeting masters, because that's one of the tricks to targets and mirrors is that Pandora's box with the range trends. And that range trend is going to happen when you start hitting targets, right? So like if we were to go down, we can identify this is the current range it's in. We understand that because of the master has created the range. So now let's find the targets. So you're going to sit here and say, okay, well, you can make 2% here, 2.2, you've got 3.5, you've got 3.75, you got 4%. So what target do you really go for here, right? So you can start thinking about taking shorts off levels at this point. You can start thinking about, and that was, if anybody remembers back to my stream, this was the target here. For a short, it was a 15-minute backside. This was a really easy clean target to go after. This trend here was also another 4 hour target. So you can see why we're targeting 4 hour levels right now. We target a 4 hour level here. We target a 4 hour level here. So it gives us very easy and concise information. So in the scope of all of these levels here, if you were to look at this, you could just say, well, there's a trend already. And if that trend breaks, you expose. So what do we know about range trends? This is a range trend. right here to here, this one here. Yes, that's a range trend. And what do we know about range trends? When range trends break, they expose the deeper parts of the range from where the base of the move is created, right? So if this is the base of the move and that's the hold level, that would be your floating level because you have broken over this. So this allows you to target a floating level. And when you break the range trend, you find the floating level, the base of the move and the level that it's targeted, right? So that's where you say, well, you can expose that move. And it also, in this scenario, is a 4-hour level. So there's a lot of easy ways to see that this was going to be targeted, right? Um, the fact that you have the floating level is just icing on the cake. You have the floating level, you have the range trend, you break the range, you expose the deepest parts of the range, and that's exactly what you get there. So let's just kind of see how this plays out, and it goes to it pretty perfectly here. I think actually goes for its greediest 4-hour level, which shouldn't be a shock to anybody, to be honest with you. These trades often go for the greediest levels, and that's your safest trade. So if you want a high quality trade, let's talk about that for a second. If you want a high quality trade that is going to happen on a frequent basis, it's finding the greediest levels from a master time frame. So number one, identify the master. Number two, identify where the target is and how that mirror gets created, right? So all these other 4-hour levels, fine. Yeah, I'm sure you can take scalps on them. I'm sure I'm sure almost all of these levels have like 50 or 60 or 1% scalps, right? This is a 60% scalp right here. What's next? This one here, that's a 1.3% scalp. This one here, that was another like nice little scalp there. 0.5 or 6, like all these 4-hour levels can be scalps. So are they going to be huge trades? No. Are they going to carry a little bit more risk than the greediest levels? Yeah, they'll carry a little bit more risk, but you just offset that by understanding that it's still going for its greediest target. So you need to identify the master. You can create the mirror, which will give you your Pandora's box, right? So that's exactly what we have here. We have going to see that target keep going through, and we can actually adjust this trend. This. You have your range trend. There's nothing left for this to protect. Once this range trend breaks, it's going to move down into the next range, which will be somewhere around here on the lower time frame. And so you break this trend, you're simply going down there. Like pretty straightforward so far, actually. Go back to the hourly time frame here. We can get rid of this one. This one is tested. You could have taken it as a reverse. So like if you left it here as this is the greediest target and maybe you took your profits already, you made yourself a nice 200%, you could just simply start scaling up those targets. You could either go for the trend or you could go for the 4-hour reverse. In our case, it hits the reverse. That's fine. We're going to delete that. We no longer need it. And this hard close is also going to identify, zooming in here to make sure this is hit. Now it's front run a little bit, but so it's not technically hit. Actually, this is your 4-hour level. This one got front run just a little bit. So you're just left with these targets on your board, right? Like you're just left with this. Like fine, this is a daily, but it really doesn't matter because we're not using dailies right now because we understand the master dictates 4 down only. So now we have a Pandora's box. So now this is great, and I want to see what this trend is. Get out of here. Okay, fine, that doesn't matter. That trend is gone. It's not important. So now we have a Pandora's box. So now what you're looking for is you've got your master has been defined here. It's given you your targets where your mirror is going to create. Now your Pandora's box is all about creating these trends. So you can do not a 4-hour on the top side. You can only actually do a 4-hour on the bottom side, which is fine. That's fine. So now you've got trend work that you can do, right? You break that. This is just kind of your trend work that's going to continue to expose this range. And this is the level that I had picked on stream for that range because you have the 1-hour trend here, and then that's the next target. So if this were to hold the move down, being a 15-minute, the +1, -1, like this would almost have to go up and target an hourly now up here. So if it targeted the hourly up here, right? And this is where you have to make that definition between what are you expecting from the trade. So if you were to go up and target this, then you have kind of all things equal, kind of, not quite, but kind of. You have a 4-hour up here. You have a 4-hour here. You have a 4-hour range trend here. You'd have a 1-hour range trend. Best case scenario, you get a 1-hour range trend. So this must continuously not reject 15-minute levels if it's to go and create a trend somewhere. If you are to go and create this trend, you cannot reject 15-minute levels. So if you break this, You cannot reject a 15-minute level. So please realize that if you are going to go up or down here, that will be decided on what level rejects the trade. And this again will help you increase your quality of trades. So if we don't have a 4-hour trend, range trend on top, not possible right now, we only have an hourly, it must continue to target hourly levels until it either creates a 4-hour range trend or simply breaks its move because it polarizes against lower and lower time frames. If a 15-minute level holds this trade down, you are going to see it completely collapse, right? So you would need to create at a minimum of an hourly level. So you've got range trend on the bottom, range trend on top, right? So that gives you very clear targets. So let's see what happens here. This 4-hour level is not really important anymore. That was dead and gone a while ago. It was a 4-hour hold level. It breaks, not a big deal. You're still dealing with this 1-hour trend here. And you simply go right to the target that we had called out, which was the, and we're going to do this on the hourly, which was that 15-minute. And also within that 15-minute, you're creating this hourly origin as your first. So you see, you're targeting an hourly level. You're creating an hourly trend off an hourly level. So far, everything is as it should be. This is now a perfectly clear Pandora's box. There's range trends, the highest time frame the top, the highest time frame from the bottom. The highest time frame on the top tells you that if a 15-minute or if it can't continue to break hourlies continues to happen, it is going down. On the bottom side, if you are being held down by those 15-minute levels or if you cannot break the hourly levels, because again, you need to create this 4-hour trend. So at some point, you need to create a range trend somewhere. You need to have some kind of break up to this move, create a white candle, and then create your range trend. So then you have a range trend from there and a range trend from there. So that's the number one thing you have to do here is create that 4-hour range trend. You only have an hourly. So like, again, as a minimum requirement here, you need to be targeting hourly levels. You have a 15-minute break right here, right? So you have a 15-minute break. So this is what you need to be targeting. And if you cannot break this, you're moving down because you have to create that 4-hour on top, right? So we're just going to keep going. There's that, turns into a 4-hour origin, targets that level, holds that hourly level again, targets the 4 on the bottom. So now think about this for a second. You've got a hourly level breaking down against a 4, right? If this down here, if this 4-hour level, and we can just delete this, it's not needed. If this 4-hour level can't at least target a 4-hour on the top, it's breaking down. It means that this is not in succession, right? You can just keep watching this. There's the trend, and then it loses trend and it breaks down, and it's going to go to the next range, and you're going to be able to define all the levels in the next range. Just let this thing go to its target here. Right to target, right to target, right to the back test of that lost range. So this again is the next range, greediest level to the back test of polarity, straight down. Another very simple trade to see. This is probably 1 or 2%, yeah, 1.5. But you can see where you created the master, right? Top side and bottom side. You have your master. You have your targets from your masters. So your target was here, right? Your target is this 4-hour, and your target on top is at least as a minimum an hourly. So if you were to say this level gets hit, you know your target is here. If you know that this holds, you know your target is going to be something along the lines of an hourly level. That hourly level could have been, find the hourly levels. It could have been all the way up here. It also could have been part of this range. Those are the two levels. But if it's going to get up here, it must break this, which is obvious, but they're one and the same level. It's just not holding the greedier level down. So when you start rejecting this and pulling back off it, there's a reason it just falls straight down and doesn't really come back up. So now you've got perfect targets. You've got your hourly here. You've got your 4-hour. You've got your next range here, which is whatever the greediest level inside of this little combination here is, whatever the combo levels are, right to the back test of polarity. So you've got this target to this target. You've got when this shorts, maybe you didn't get in it, but this could have been an easy long to see the different targets up top here. You'd probably want to hold out for this. But again, if you see this is rejecting and pulling back, you can get out, right? And then, make your decision there. And that gives you your Pandora's box, which is your, let's keep that here. Now you've got your master, your target, your Pandora's box, the range trends that were created. So if this is going to break up, it must do at least break this or at least get past this level. And if it's going to break down, it has to not get past those. Pretty obvious. And then you have the controllers of the trades. So what are the controllers on these trades? Well, now it gets into the next interesting part. Your controllers are going to be time frame down from what you see next, right? So like, for example, if this is an hourly level, your controller here is going to be here. So if this rejects the move, then you are going to be losing this trade, right? Like that's pretty simple. You're going to lose that trade. You would have shorted this. You got an hourly level there. This would have been a high quality short. So when you're talking about a high quality of standard while increasing frequency, that's really where the controller comes in, because this allows you to understand that if this move holds it down, you're breaking the range. So if you were, in theory, to buy this 15-minute level, you know to expect at least below this, right? 15-minute level targets 15-minute level. Shouldn't really surprise you, being that that 15-minute level is kind of like the perfect moment that if you go and look inside of this next range, like that's the greediest level. I don't actually know if you backtest this. I guess you could have technically gone down here. You could technically go down to this, and you might step ladder this to this and then move up. But picking either target is fine here. Like, I think at this point when it bounces up, you just simply get out of the trade here, because if this 15-minute keeps holding, it's going to move up, right? So then that controller is what you're looking at for time frames. And then alternatively on the bottom, your controller would have had to be, let's just talk about this for a second. Okay, so the controller on the bottom, if you have 4 hour here, this has to be a minimum of an hourly level to hold it. Well, so there's not really any hourly levels here. So what do? You go to a 15-minute origin. So do you have any 15-minute origins? Break levels that could turn into origins? Yeah, right here. So this has to hold the move. It doesn't not it has no choice, right? So this is your hourly level after it hits twice. So it hits once, comes back down, hits twice, right? So those are your two controllers in the trade. So if you go before this actually happens, you don't have anything else. You don't have this. You have this right here. You have this right here. This is below the level. So you need to ladder above this point. You have this, you have even further back, you have this guy here, and you have this here. That's an origin. So that's actually not a target, right? So we need to actually delete that, right? And what about that? Well, that's below the level, so you have to ladder above it, so that doesn't count. Okay, what else do we have? This here, no, can't hit more than once. Actually, this is the only possible hourly level that you could have in the future. So this
Wait,
is a
Cotton,
15.
can you say why that wasn't a target, the one that you had before?
So this is a 15 right here, right? This is your hourly right here. This is your 15-minute level right here. You have your 15-minute level there. Okay, so we know we hit a 15-minute level. Easy. Now, whether it's here or whether it's there, 15-minute level easily. This will turn into an hourly, right? So that's pretty straightforward. This is an hourly, that's an hourly, this is a 4, that's your 4. You now have a 15-minute level on the bottom side. Um, could you have taken this trade? I guess that's the next question. Technically, you'd want to take the hourly. So let's go and look at that for a second. So you hit your 4 hour here. Oh, you already hit your hourly actually. So your hourly is holding the move up into a 15 here. Is that 15 an hourly? That is an hourly there. So this is an hourly. This is a 15 holding it. Technically, you should be breaking up, right? However, you have to still get above this hourly, right? So you've kind of got all things equal at this point. You've got an hourly target here that's held the move up and that's held the move down. And before that, you had an hourly here. So these two are connected, right? Like this here. Let's move this over here. Let's go like this, move that there, right? So you've got hourly here, hourly there. All things equal so far. Next should be 15 to 15, right? Greediest 15 to greediest 15, which is actually exactly what executes there. You got 15 to 15. Remember, in the master time frame, if you go back to number 1, because we're looking at controllers where trades exist, the master will tell us what's happening long term. The master has told us that, delete that, let's delete that, let's delete that. The master has told us that we need to break this hourly in order to create a 4-hour range trend. We don't have any 4-hour range trends that we could create yet. We could possibly create one here. This is a possibility, right? That's a possibility. Possibility to create that there. But now you'd have to go and hold a 15-minute level because you've actually turned this into an hourly. So now you'd kind of have to go and hold this. You wouldn't really have a choice. So could you set a trade here now? Could you set a trade here in order to make that the appropriate level to buy? And you know how you find that out? If this candle is white when this gets hit, that's when you would buy that because it can. Okay, so that's hit right there. Let's make sure. Zoom in. Not hit. Well, actually, it is hit right here. That's fine. It is a white candle. So you could have bought that. So you could have actually bought that being a white candle right there. So here you would have to now gain the next 15-minute level. So you'd be in a trade from here saying if you don't gain this, you have to get out of the trade. Okay. Getting a little spooky. Probably time to exit soon. Rejection as target, right? You'd almost be minute to minute candle hunting now because this has been hit. You have the range trend that could create. So let's just go and clarify that. You could create a range trend now from here. So you could have a range trend. So you could delete this now and you could have a range trend if you can stabilize the move, right? You have a 5-minute level here at all? You do. You have a 5-minute level right here. So this has been tested to hold. You can't hard close this. Once you hard close this, you've pretty much got to get out of the trade. If you can't get above this 15, you've got to get out of this trade. Oh, we didn't mean to hit play. Go back a few bars there. You need to either get over this or get out of the trade. That's really your only option here. So when this happens, you need to get out of your trade. You need to get out of your trade because you're simply not laddering up the move anymore. You need to just be able to get out right where you entered and that's it. And to just take an equal exit, right? Because this is exactly what's going to happen is you're going to lose the move and it's just going to start sinking. Because the only option for this trade to now go up is to create a range trend here. And that's it. If you can't create this range trend, this trade is dead. So that's where your controller comes into place to see your time frames. So what's controlling this trade is this 15-minute level because you have the hourly here. It has to stagger to this 15 or at least hold this 15 until it can get over that. Like it can sit here and hold this, but eventually it has to get over one of these 15-minute levels, right? Like it would have to sit here and hold and hold and hold and hold and hold. And it's just simply not doing that. Instead, it's just going down to further and further targets. So that's your controller. And that's why you see such an instant collapse there because the controller is not able to go into succession. And the only way that you could have done that is by having this 4-hour trend right here, this range trend create, because that's part of the whole entire thing. You need range trends against each other to see what side this thing is going to break up on. And then you just hit play and it's pretty much, the rest is pretty easy to see, right? Like you're just going back down and testing back the different levels and that's really what you have to look at when you're looking at increasing the quality of your trades and having a high frequency is being able to identify the controllers in the trades. Well, everything. First off, the master gives you the target. So those are your bigger trades. So if you want high quality, larger trades, you use your masters and your targets, right? The Pandora's box allows you to create range trends and the controllers allow you to see where the trades exist.